Welcome to Backyard Cigars. When I was in Las Vegas and I was at the Casa Fuente, one of the cigars that I picked up um, were the Fuente Mystery Blend. Now, this didn't just fall into my lap, so to speak. What really happened was, as I was talking with the manager, we were just talking about different things, right? And he obviously noticed that I have a deep appreciation for fine cigars and Fuente cigars as well. And I was buying up a bunch of cigars, but I had to be careful because you're limited to like one or two, so you can't really buy a bulk amount of cigars there. Not really, except on certain lines. And they did have some J.C. Newman cigars as well, and some God of Fires that you can buy. But a lot of them, the really good ones, were limited to two or one. And then he says to me, he goes, we got these. I asked him about one particular cigar, and he said, "Well, we don't have that, but we've got these mystery blends that have been here for a couple years." So what do you mean, couple years? He's like, well, the location of where they're placed at, they're kind of in the corner, and no one really buys them as much. He said himself, I wonder why no one buys them, and I said, well, maybe it could be because it's not a real line, so to speak. There are no specs on it. It's completely undocumented. Like, you just don't know what it is. And on top of that, it ain't cheap, right? So people like to know what they're getting, or they're just chasing after those unicorns, especially in a place like Casa Fuente. But he said no. These are called Producción, and I guess sometime in the mid 2000s they started doing this, where it would be a Producción and it would be a mystery blend. They wouldn't tell you what it's about. I don't even know if these are available online. I searched for them. I couldn't even come up with anything. I think on one occasion on my cigar app, they did come up, but for the year I think 2018 or 19. So they all have vintages, obviously, and the ones that I was able to acquire, I think there were about three left. And he goes, yeah, there's three left of the box that we've had there for like quite a while. And I guess they sell when he talks about them. You sell it, it goes. And he didn't need to say much to me after that, because that's when I said, well, let me see them. Let me take a look at them. He goes, yeah, they're in good shape. There's nothing wrong with them. These are from 2016, he said to me. So they've got some age on them. I said, okay. Now that's what I'm talking about. And they're not, I'm saying this because he told me this. We're not charging extra for the time that they've been aging here, like we do with some of the other cigars. So I'm saying this to you now. I didn't pay extra because they were aged. They just happened to be aged, and I benefited from being at the right place at the right time. So, Producción Fuente 2016 Mystery Blend is just that, a complete mystery. Hard to find this cigar anywhere. It's hard to find any information on it. The manager himself could not tell me much. He said, look, my guess is as good as yours. And I said, no, your guess is better than mine. You work here. What do you know? And he said, the only thing I know is that it's a mystery blend. Calito himself won't say what's in it. He's just having fun with it. He goes, this is his way of just playfully having fun with the blend and having people react to it. So on the cellophane is where you see the Producción, and there's really just no point in me trying to show this to you. You're not gonna see it, but it's here. It's here, and that's what really all it says. It says Producción 2016. It doesn't even say Fuente on it, but we know it's a Fuente, right? And it's got the sheath with the attached footband for added protection. Seems to be in pretty good condition. There is a piece of leaf here at the bottom that probably needs a little bit of glue. We're gonna let it be for right now. If it needs the glue, it'll get it. It's not a crack or anything like that. It just seems to me the way they cut it and then glued it there is just, it could flap up once I apply some heat to it, but we'll see. Well, it's a Fuente, right? It doesn't, it's not always good. Not every Fuente tastes amazing, and not every cigar tastes amazing from the very beginning. This seems like a very, it's sort of rustic for a Fuente, because you've got this long vein coming down here, and so it's a little veiny, and it's a little bit less polished than your typical Opus X. Um, you know, I could take all kinds of stabs at what is in this blend, but I won't just yet, because I want to experience it instead of constantly guessing. But if I pick up flavors that I recognize, just from a visual, looking at the wrapper, right? That's all we can see right now. It could be a Dominican wrapper, or it could be a Cameroon wrapper. But see, that's just an educated guess, because those are the two main types of wrappers that Fuente will use. He'll also use Connecticut broadleaf, but that's darker, and most of the time a darker Connecticut broadleaf, which is easily recognizable, and and you know, sort of buttery, little bit of sweetness, and some cedar. If we're talking about the specs on the cigar in terms of the vitola size, it looks like a skinny Toro. It looks like something that would be, 5.5 by 46, give or take. And right now, I'm getting some of those Dominican flavor profiles that I'm aware of, that I'm familiar with. And I think something else that people might want to know, that I'm asking myself in my head, that I think people might want to know, is how does it compare to the Opus X line, right? Because there's Fuente and then there's Fuente. And a lot of people know that Fuente makes some very good affordable cigars. Very good affordable cigars. Excellent cigars. And you get really good value and quality construction. But then there's Fuente for the unicorn chasers, or for those that have deep pockets. And then we're talking Opus X, and then the specialty lines that are limited releases, and they're so limited and so rare that you don't even know it happened. It just happened, and you missed it. And even in the high probability is that even if you knew it was coming, you'd probably still miss it, for one or two reasons, or both. One being, they're so exclusive that you can't get your hands on them. Two being that they're probably out of your price range. And sometimes both. We make sacrifices, we work hard, we love our cigars, so we go the extra mile, and we search and we hunt and we save our pennies, because we want to be rewarded with not just a unicorn that we can brag about getting, but a unicorn that we know we can trust in, a brand, that we can get behind and say, most of the stuff that's going to be available from this company is going to be primo. And that drives us, because the risk that you think you're taking is a lot less, right? Because if you go after a rare Padron, you're more than likely going to have a very good experience. More than likely. Some people might disagree. I don't know who those people are. but then you have the situation where it falls into your lap and you didn't overpay for it, and you just sort of enjoy it. But how does this Producción 2016 vintage mystery blend stack up against the higher lines, right? The premium lines from Arturo Fuente? Well, it doesn't. It's just, it's not that. It's so far inch in, very nice cigar. The aging definitely influenced the flavor profile here, smoothed it out, just really mellowed it out a bit as well. Not much of a baking spice from it that I'm getting. Some of those Fuente notes and flavors that some of us are familiar with, I don't want to say all of us, are not there. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I wasn't charged an arm and a leg for this particular cigar line. They weren't cheap either, but they weren't super expensive. I think they were $16. Now you might say, well, that's still kind of expensive. Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is, even if you're on vacation. But for a Fuente that's been aged for, 5, 6, 7 years, it's not so bad. It's nice. It's nice. And I'm imagining you get this cigar fresh. If you can, if you could even get it fresh, but it's possible. You get a 2018, a 2019, and you age it yourself for a couple of years, and you'll more than likely get something like this. Now, this was in their humidor is usually what he said was about 68 RH, give or take. They don't keep their humidor it didn't feel very moist in there, and the readings were ranging between that 67 to 70, right? The whole 70 thing. But you got that door opening up, and so it was reading somewhere in the 67, 68 range, maybe 69. But these particular ones were they were in a corner towards the bottom. Okay, so they did feel a little drier, even upon bringing them home and leaving them in my humidor for a few days. They did feel a little bit drier, and that I welcomed. I really liked that they weren't over humidified, and that I didn't have to leave them in my own humidor for 2 weeks. For example, in some cases with over humidified cigars, you may have to leave them in your humidor for 2 weeks or do a dry box. A nice buttery aspect is still there. A little bit of pepper, some sweetness, and the cedar notes. It's staying very consistent from the beginning till now. Guesses. I mean, this is fun, right? Because, this isn't like one of those releases where they roll out a big release and they tell you about how nothing is disclosed. This is a pet thing, just having fun. Don't it's not going to be $25-$30 a cigar. It's going to be a smaller engage. Maybe it's a Cameroon wrapper with a Dominican binder and filler. Maybe it's a Dominican puro, or maybe it throws you a little curve and the wrapper is Dominican, but the binder's Nicaraguan, and then the filler is, of course, Dominican. I can't think of the filler being anything other than Dominican, because I'm just getting too much of those flavor profiles, that the flavor notes that I get from that Dominican profile. Now, those that have seen some of my videos or reviews in the past know the kind of reverence that I have for the Fuente family, for the Padron family, for a lot of the older families, the De Los Reyes, and a lot of these old families, legacy families, we know them as. They are the driving forces behind the tobacco industry, cigar industry. that is, for the tobacco for cigar. Okay, for cigars. So, I think about these families and I think about everything that they've gone through and to achieve what they've achieved. And there's just so much. You know, Carlito Fuente Jr. says if the tobacco industry for cigars, if the cigar industry is going to survive, then it's going to have to show and let people know what it's really about the love, the generosity, the friendship that it's about, that how it brings people together, and just that it's not about you know collecting. And this is not him saying this. This is me saying it. But I'm saying this is not about collecting the rarest, most expensive cigars. It's about enjoying the cigars that you like and enjoying them with the people you love or like, and or just enjoying the experience for yourself and appreciating the work that went into it. But what he says is right. If the cigar industry doesn't promote that aspect of the culture of this hobby, then it's going to fail. And I'm not going to talk about it right now, but there are coming videos where we're going to be talking about the future of the cigar industry, or for that matter, the future of tobacco consumption, not only in the United States where I'm at, but globally. Now I'm getting a nice sweet peppercorn taste, red peppercorn. It's really nice. Oh yeah. So back to what I was saying is just we've got to look at things and we've got to be realistic about things. There are some things that are hindering uh, the tobacco industry as a whole, and there are some things specifically that might hinder the cigar industry. And I think that we owe it to ourselves because we're all responsible here. We're all participants here to do our best to dispel the negativity and promote the positivity of this hobby. Now, I never recommend to anyone that they should smoke a cigar. I never do that. I don't encourage it. I don't recommend it, especially to underage individuals. So, underage individuals should not be watching my channel. They should not be focusing on tobacco use of any kind. It's just my opinion. But I think that, this is a hobby intended for consenting adults, and we need to be realistic about things. It's nice, but it's not, it's this isn't Opus X level or anything like that. I would put it somewhere in between, and that in between, it wedged himself in the in between quality, probably because of the age on the cigar. Now, I've mentioned before, I personally don't like to age my cigars, my Fuente cigars, for more than 2 or 3 years. So this is a 6-year-old aged cigar. It's a lot more mellower and a lot less uh, robust in flavor than I would personally like. But I do know some people that really like that mellow flavor of the aged cigar and would really appreciate this. And I think that either or, you're going to appreciate it because the quality is very good. No touch-ups required. Good aroma. Uh, Overall good construction. That little piece of leaf that I thought might flap up with some heat actually stayed put. Burned right through it perfectly. Didn't cause any problems. So I think that's where it lands. It's in that middle And I know you might say, well, the añejos, some of the añejos, the really long ones, that they're like 7 inches by 52 or 54. These añejos, which are generally $13, $14, if you can find them at that price, but when you usually find them, they're priced $10 more, sometimes even $20 more, are the real in-betweens, right? But you can't even find those. And even those, I strongly believe, benefit from at least a year of aging, because I don't, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like the way that Fuente uses the Connecticut broadleaf. And I'm kind of, in an American sort of way, I'm a little protective of the American tobacco. And so I'm a little protective of how it's even used. And I'm gonna be slightly critical right now and say I have not enjoyed a lot of the cigars made by Fuente wrapped with a Connecticut broadleaf. I've not enjoyed them unless I've aged them for at least a year. Now, some might say, well, that's just how Connecticut broadleaf can be sometimes. Dark espresso notes, it can be a little rough around the edges, and it's rustic in appearance, so sometimes the flavor profile can follow suit. Yes, I do know this, but you have to blend accordingly to that. And I'm not saying that the blend is bad. I just don't particularly like sometimes. I think, look, and when I spoke to the manager at Fuente, he was intentionally looking for spicy broad. He likes spicy broadleaf wrappers for his blends with the Dominican tobacco. Now, Connecticut broadleaf blends very well with Dominican tobacco, with Nicaraguan tobacco. It's a great wrapper for just about all of them. But and maybe a pepperhead would probably appreciate it a lot more. That spiciness, that hard leather, that raw hard leather, and some of those pepper notes that you get. Maybe a pepperhead might enjoy those more. But I like pepper. I just don't like the balance of the way sometimes some of the cigars from Fuente using the Connecticut broadleaf wrapper taste like. And I had the same experience at Casa Fuente, where I had one of the cigars with a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, and I didn't appreciate it as much. I really did. I thought to myself, I kept thinking to myself, this is going to be a lot better once I age it for a year. It's probably going to be amazing after a year, like the añejos. And now, like in this final third here, things are shaping up really well. It's ending, or it's sprinting down to the finish very well, because all of a sudden all of these flavors are just popping up to the surface. A little bit of honey, a little bit of more a presence of a soft cedar, some like a sweet cedar. Obviously, a little bit more of the pepper bite in the finish. I like it. I like some of the bacon spices that are coming through. Very nice. Shaping up really good right now. Still not on that Opus X level, but that's okay. That is really okay, because buying a mystery blend like this and not knowing what you're getting, well, it's just that. You don't know what you're getting. What's in it, you can deduce. But whether you're going to like it or not, that's going to be up for debate. I'm liking it so far. Finishing notes. Look, folks, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but I figured to myself, not that many people watch me, so I don't think what I'm saying right now is going to spread like wildfire in any way. And perhaps a lot of people are already aware. But if you're with me right now, whether you forward it to the end of the video or not, this Sunday, Fuente and Padron are going to debut their collaboration line at the PCA trade show in Las Vegas, and they will be displaying the cases for all to see sometime in the afternoon, I believe. And this is a collaboration that was thought about a couple years back, and Fuente has blended a cigar in honor of Padron's father. So Jorge Padron's father. And Jorge Padron has blended a cigar in honor of Carlito Fuente Jr.'s father, Carlos Fuente. So it's amazing that these individuals got together to do this. Obviously, there are dollar signs etched across all of this. That's a given. But it's not all about money here. This is about legacy. This is about coming together and really doing something special. Something that, unless they do it again, I mean, we may never see something like this again. And if we do, it'll be a long, long time from now. This is this is just on another level. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, I have no words. and his words were epic. And, it makes sense. Because this is amazing. And it's hard to fathom just how this went down. I mean, I hope there was filming going on to some degree so that we can see a documentary on this, because that's how this is just how important it is. It's important to the cigar industry. It is. But it's just, wow. This is, I mean, for us watch geeks, this is sort of like the Omega Moon swatch thingy that occurred some months ago, where Swatch and Omega collaborated to put forth a watch with a lot of the DNA from Omega and some of the characteristics or materials that Swatch uses. But here's the difference with that. Swatch owns the Omega brand, Swatch Group, and they were in a position where they could kind of move this along and make it happen, even if the rumors about the Omega CEO not being too happy about going along with this is true, which I sincerely doubt as well. Regardless of what he said, he might be talking out both sides of his mouth. On paper, it seemed like a great idea. To some extent, it could be a great idea. But look, let me not digress from that subject. And just in comparison, the difference being is that Fuente doesn't own Padron and Padron doesn't own Fuente. We know this. They are friendly. They are like family. And in the cigar industry, in the cigar community, they are family. But they didn't have to do this. Okay? They're not competing against each other. That's another thing that Fuente says. This should never be about competition between the cigar families and the cigar brands and lines. It should never be about that. It should be about putting out the best product that you can put out so that the smokers, the consumers are happy. So that you're proud of what you're putting out. And that's what it should be about, not competition. And he's proving his words. He's proving he's true to his words, because someone insecure or someone, doubtful might say, "Oh, this is not a good idea. We can't do this." I mean, they're our main competitor, or it's not gonna work. Of course, I can't imagine them saying this is not gonna work. But how is this gonna work? How? And work it did, because it's happening. It is happening. It is something I've been dreaming about for the last 2 years, and it's gonna happen. Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna ever get to smoke one, but look, I'm just happy it happened. And this cigar, I'm happy to have smoked it as well. Fiery pepper finish with some earthy elements and cedar notes down the stretch. Not much sweetness left. Really good finish. And I'm glad I got it. I am very glad I got it. I'm enjoying it. All's well right now. And all will be even better by the end of this weekend if somehow, some way, Fuente and Padron can guarantee that the normal cigar-loving smoker will get a chance to purchase these cigars that they're gonna put out. So it's gonna be 20. It's a boxes of 20 by Fuente, boxes of 20 by Padron. Yin yang. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to watch this channel, listen to me rant and rave and go through all kinds of thought processes. And I really appreciate all of the support, every bit of it, from your comments to your questions, anything. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time on Backyard Cigars.